So, how much are we gonna get? Knowing how stingy Dad was, it should be a decent amount, right? That's for sure. I've already ordered a bunch of stuff to prepare for my wedding with that money in mind. Despite the recent funeral service for their deceased father, the stepchildren were not mourning but were fixated on the inheritance. But this was only a temporary respite for them, as I muttered to myself. The image of my husband, who had passed away suddenly, crossed my mind, along with a letter he sent 2 weeks after his death. It had a line, "Please read this away from the stepchildren. My name is Jolie Smith, 55 years old. I work as the first female manager at a local bank in my hometown. Currently, I live with my husband Sean, a university associate professor of the same age, and our son Harry, who has just entered middle school this spring. However, Sean has 3 other children from his previous marriage to Anna. When Sean and I got married 16 years ago, his eldest son Tom and his second son John were in the midst of their teenage years, 16 and 14, respectively. Additionally, his daughter Mary was just 10 years old, so she continued to live with her mother Anna, Sean's ex-wife, even after our marriage. I married Sean knowing he was divorced with children, thinking it was important not to disrupt the relationship between his children and him. But he would say, "I appreciate your concern, but Anna and I divorced 9 years ago, and since then, the kids have been living with her parents. So, they never visited our apartment, nor did Sean visit them." This was the same for the parents' engagement in their school activities, and it didn't seem like he was going secretly. At first, I thought it was not my place to interfere as I was not their real mother, but I couldn't help feeling that Sean's attitude towards his children was too detached. Sean, who was kind and considerate to everyone, seemed off in this regard. But after much deliberation, when I brought it up, he just chuckled and said, "It's not because of our marriage. After the divorce, the kids have been living with Anna's parents, and they're not keen on seeing me." So, I had no choice but to back down. Moreover, a year after marrying Sean, I unexpectedly became pregnant, and the busyness of daily life made me almost forget about his children from his previous marriage. After our son Harry was born, Sean and I were overwhelmed with balancing childcare and work, putting the children from the previous marriage even further from our minds. However, one Sunday, without any prior notice, Sean's 3 children came to our apartment with their mother Anna. At first, I didn't recognize the woman on the intercom, but Sean's face went pale, and he asked in a cold voice I had never heard before, "What do you want?" But Anna, unfazed, replied in a calm tone, "They have a cute little half-brother now, so we thought we'd come to celebrate." And she smiled warmly at the monitor. Eventually, we let them in, and even after handing over the baby gift, Anna, while glancing at a seemingly irritated Sean, said, "Oh, he's such a cute child, much chubbier than when my kids were babies. He must take after his mom," and made disparaging remarks about me and Harry, and also commented on our apartment being small. "It's a nice location, but it's quite cramped." Well, I guess it's fine for a modest family of 3, but I couldn't stand it, it feels suffocating. She just went ahead and opened all the storage doors here and there, and even brazenly walked into Sean's study and my room. When she tried to enter our bedroom, I finally scolded her, and all she did was laugh it off and say, "Oh, did that bother you? Sorry about that," without really understanding what she was thinking. Despite their mother creating a tense atmosphere with us, the homeowners, the older 2 kids just sat on the living room couch, silently playing with their gaming devices and phones. Mary was watching TV she turned on by herself and munching on snacks she took from the kitchen. Noticing my gaze, she gave a grin just like her mother Anna's and teasingly said, "Not giving any snacks to the baby, huh?" as she rushed to Harry's crib and started to push the snack she was eating into his mouth. Harry immediately started crying, and as I rushed to pick him up, Sean scolded her, but she showed no remorse. The older 2 continued to ignore everything around them. While desperately comforting a crying Harry, I had a bad feeling watching Anna and her children. I was shocked by the behavior of Anna and her kids, but after they left, Sean must have talked to Anna's parents, and we've had peaceful days without any sudden visits since then. However, as we started preparing for Harry's elementary school, Mary is exactly 12 years older than Harry, so she must be graduating from high school this year. Suddenly, I began to care about those children. In fact, after that incident, Sean told me, "Jolly, you don't need to get involved with Anna and the others from now on," so I was able to stay completely uninvolved. However, as Harry became less demanding and our daily routine settled, I found myself with more emotional bandwidth. I started to think about those children who consider Sean their father, reflecting, back then, I was overwhelmed with the newness of parenting. Perhaps I lacked compassion towards those children, who might have felt they lost their father to me. It had come to seem that way. So, I talked to Sean about celebrating Mary's university entry, if not her graduation. Initially hesitant, Sean eventually said, "If you're holding back because of me, don't worry about it. I'd like you to support Mary and the others just as you do Harry." It seemed that deep down, Sean also cared about them. When he found out that Mary had been accepted into college, he reached out to Anna and directly called to congratulate Mary, asking what she would like as a celebration gift. Then Mary said, "If you're going to celebrate, I'd love to have a meal with all the siblings." That would be nice, wouldn't it? She apparently asked for it. Initially, Sean and I were surprised that Mary included Harry among all the siblings, as we hadn't expected that. However, we took it as a sign of our mutual growth and were genuinely happy about it. So, we went ahead and booked the restaurant Mary had picked out and expressed she liked. I initially didn't plan to attend, but then I was told, if Harry suddenly finds himself surrounded only by us, now adults, he might feel out of place. "So, would you please join us?" After hearing this, especially from Tom, the eldest son who had graduated from college and was working at the city hall, I was earnestly requested to join, so I decided to attend as well. The celebration was filled with a warm atmosphere, and Harry quickly got along with his much older siblings, Tom and John. In the end, they were sorry for their past behavior and asked to be good siblings to Harry, moving Sean and me to tears. Since then, we've gathered for various celebrations, like John's medical board exam success, Sean's thesis completion, and Mary's birthday, making us a closer family. When Tom resigned from his city hall job to run for city council, Sean and I used all our connections to support him. Though we couldn't provide financial support for his campaign, we did everything we could, from distributing flyers and creating leaflets to treating tea or coffee in his office and helping with street speeches. It's no exaggeration to say we did everything possible. When Tom won the city council seat with the youngest age and highest votes, Sean and I were truly delighted. But looking back, that's probably when things started to change. As a city council member, Tom was quickly idolized in the media as a fresh-faced politician, and he became arrogant, saying things like, "When you're as significant as I am, you attract all kinds of people. It's best to ignore those who aren't useful to me." Even when Sean tried to admonish him, Tom wouldn't listen, retorting, "Don't get all high and mighty with me. Even Dad is just another useless person to me," leaving us speechless. Then, Mary contacted me directly via social media, wanting to meet. At the cafe, she immediately asked, "You're a bank manager, right?" She requested to be hired through connections. Though I am the first female manager at the local bank, I have no involvement in HR. Moreover, our bank doesn't have a nepotism hiring policy for new graduates. I explained this to her, saying, "I don't know where you heard that, but our bank doesn't hire through connections for new graduates, and that nepotism might only apply to part-time positions at branches." However, Mary was not convinced at all and exclaimed, "What? Just because you're the second wife, you can't do a favor for your husband's children?" After saying that in a fit of anger, she continued, "Just like Mom said, you're the type of woman who would marry such a worthless father. You're just a gold digger, aren't you?" She glared at me with the same eyes she had when trying to force her half-eaten snacks into baby Harry's mouth. Realizing what she implied made me shudder, and then Mary, with a look of hatred, said, "I will definitely get back at you for this," before storming off with loud footsteps. After parting ways with Mary, I struggled with deciding when to tell Sean about the conversation, but couldn't find the right moment. About a month later, Sean mentioned, "I had some issues during a health checkup and had to undergo further tests. They've asked me to come hear the results, and they want you to be there with me." He confided in me. Shocked, I rushed to the hospital, where the doctor informed us, unfortunately, it's stage 4 cancer. While trying desperately to shake off the overwhelming darkness clouding my vision, I asked about treatment options. However, the doctor just shook his head, saying, "There's little we can do now," and recommended admission to palliative care. We were so shocked that day that neither of us could recall how we got home. After a sleepless night, as dawn broke, I thought to myself, I can't just accept this and back down. If that hospital can't help, maybe another one or a different doctor might take on Sean's treatment. Driven by that thought, I asked my boss for a leave and started seeking a second opinion, running from one hospital to another. But every renowned doctor we met told us the same grim prognosis. And Sean, who had been accompanying me to all these hospital visits out of sheer goodwill, started to show signs of fatigue, breathing heavily. Seeing this, I felt guilty about my stubbornness, but then Sean said, "Jolie, I appreciate your effort, and the thought of leaving Harry behind is unbearable. But if my time is limited, I'd rather spend it on something other than treatment." In the following 2 months, Sean lived his days in a way that was true to himself, and then quietly passed away. Despite my inner turmoil, Tom and the other 2 stepchildren did not show up at Sean's funeral. However, surrounded by me, Harry, and those who genuinely mourned him, Sean might have been content. On the day of the memorial service, Tom and his siblings showed up out of the blue, quickly inquired about their inheritance, and seemed to be on the same page, smirking about it. It was utterly disgraceful. But in my bag, I had the letter Sean had sent, and I received 2 weeks after he passed away, instructing me to read it away from his stepchildren. When he wrote, "Please read this hidden from the stepchildren," Sean must have had a faint idea that something like this would happen. At that moment, I felt it was time to confront the 3 individuals who were looking at me with scornful smiles. Despite the unexpected visit from Tom and his siblings, I managed to get through the service and later told them, "Discussing money at such a place is odd, so let's wait for a call from my lawyer soon." I gave them the business card of the lawyer I had prepared for him and left the place. 2 days later, the lawyer's office contacted us to set up a meeting. When I arrived, Tom and his siblings were already there, and without much greeting, we moved to a private room for the discussion. Tom, with a smirk, asked, "So, as the wife, you inherit half, but what about our share of the remaining half?" He slid a local newspaper from 2 years ago across the table, highlighting a headline about the relocation of a train station. Noticing their eager faces, I realized that Sean's prediction was sadly accurate. I see. Sean's prediction was sadly correct. I picked up the newspaper and said to Tom, "As a local councilman, you must be aware that the value of our condo has doubled due to the station's relocation, right?" Mary then interjected, "If you're aware, then this should be quick. That condo is part of the inheritance, so pay us our share in cash." The lawyer was about to speak about the condo, but I stopped him with a look and said, "Your share? What are you talking about?" I asked back with a serious face. Then Mary, seemingly infuriated, exclaimed, "Don't play dumb. Even if you were remarried to him, that father is still our biological father, so we naturally have the right to inherit." But all the lawyer and I could do was give a faint smile at her declaration. Seeing our reaction, Tom and the others must have sensed something was off, but Mary, caught up in her frenzy, couldn't read the room, getting even more agitated and yelling, "What's so funny? Don't mess with me." The lawyer, apparently fed up, stated, "Indeed, if you were the biological or adopted children of the late Mr. Smith, you would have inheritance rights. But you are neither," showing them the registry. The three of them, unable to grasp the lawyer's words immediately, started scrutinizing the registry spread out on the table. Only to realize it listed Anna's marriage and divorce, and then Sean's marriage to me and the birth of our son Harry, but nothing about them. They then began to shout in unison, "What does this mean?" While watching their reaction, I recalled the letter Sean had addressed to me 2 weeks after his passing. As I opened the letter near Sean's photo, which I placed to remember him, I was enveloped in a strange feeling. The unsettling line, "Please read this," hidden from the stepchildren, along with an unfamiliar key and a note about its storage location, was enough to unsettle me. Following the note, I went to Sean's university lab, where his students greeted me, saying, "The professor emailed us instructions. Please, this way." Before I could even explain, a safe was presented to me from a locker in the corner of the room. With trembling hands, I opened the safe and took the documents inside to a lawyer who was said to be one of Sean's former students. "He has told me everything. There's nothing for you to worry about," he said with a reassuring smile, revealing the gift Sean had left for me and Harry in his final days. Sean's parting gift was a means to protect me and Harry from the greedy trio, Tom, John, Mary, and their mother, Anna. When I remarried Sean, I momentarily found it strange that there was no mention of Tom and his siblings' support. However, Sean explained, after the previous marriage, my ex-wife has the parental authority, and I moved out for the divorce, which made sense to me, and I had since forgotten about it. However, the truth was more complex. All three of you were born to Ms. Anna as children of an unmarried mother. When Ms. Anna and Mr. Sean got married, there was no formal adoption, so naturally, you are not considered his legal heirs. When the lawyer explained this to Tom and the others, Tom retorted, But what if we were children fathered by our dad with our mother before they got married? If that's the case, we should still be able to file a paternity lawsuit even now." John countered fiercely, but the lawyer responded, "If you insist, I won't stop you, but you should know that you have little chance of winning." Saying this, the lawyer pulled out a copy of an old memorandum from the bottom of a stack of documents and spread it out in front of the three siblings. The document was a memorandum exchanged between Sean and the now-deceased parents of Anna before their marriage. It read, as documented here, "Your biological father is a married business executive. Your mother, who was his mistress, gave birth to you one after another but was ultimately unable to marry him. Anna's parents, deeply concerned about their aimless daughter and her 3 grandchildren, seem to have set their sights on Sean, a distant relative. At that time, Sean, although working as a university lecturer at his alma mater, was struggling financially, barely making ends meet on his own. After his father passed away young, his stepmother, who raised him as a single mother, fell ill, and he was in dire need of money. Therefore, Anna's parents pleaded with Sean to marry Anna and take the 3 children as stepchildren in exchange for financial assistance. Sean's bedridden mother opposed this, not wanting her son to make such a sacrifice, but Sean accepted the offer. However, Sean's mother passed away soon after, and Sean proposed to dissolve the marriage to Anna, wanting to repay the money he had received instead. The agreement they reached is documented in the memorandum before us, indicating that Anna's parents agreed to the divorce on the condition that it be kept secret that the children were not Sean's biological offspring, treating them as stepchildren. Why did we have to go through such a complicated ordeal? And who's to say there wasn't something between our mother and father when she got pregnant with us? John persisted. However, the lawyer explained that when Anna was pregnant with Tom and Mary, Sean was studying abroad through a university exchange program, with no record of him returning in between. Moreover, considering John's blood type, the possibility of AB-type Sean being his biological father was extremely low. As someone in the medical field, John seemed to finally accept defeat. He slumped into his chair, head down. But Mary, still not satisfied, threatened, "Enough with this, just hand over the money. And if you refuse, I wonder what will happen to your position at the company, huh?" Despite being rejected when she asked me to help her find a job, Mary managed to get employed at a subsidiary of the local bank where I work, using her own skills. However, it seems she has been spreading nasty rumors about me within the company. Eventually, these rumors reached my bank, putting me in a difficult position for a while, but thanks to the support of my juniors who admire me, I managed to get through the ordeal unscathed. Ironically, a few of Sean's former students, who heard the rumors, advised Sean out of concern for me, helping him realize the malicious scheme of Tom and his siblings. You don't have to worry about that. A document detailing how you spread baseless rumors was sent by the lawyer to your fiancé, Ken, just before this meeting. I informed Mary, causing her face to pale instantly. What have you done? Ken's father is the president of the company I work for. What will happen if our engagement is called off? She said, suddenly looking anxious. That's the consequence of your own actions, isn't it? Since you convinced the president to remove me from handling his company's account based on your lies, the bank must have formally protested by now. I stated calmly. Hearing this, Mary, just like the other two, slumped into her chair, muttering, "It's all over." Afterward, each of the three siblings experienced a downfall as if scripted. First, Tom, the eldest son, was on the verge of getting engaged to a prominent county councilor's daughter following a matchmaking session. However, the marriage talks abruptly fell through, and the plans for him to be adopted as a son-in-law and inherit the political stronghold were nullified. Having resigned from his city council position in anticipation of his new role as the councilor's secretary post-marriage, Tom suddenly found himself unemployed. Without any unemployment benefits for a former councilman and having racked up debts during his last hurrah of bachelorhood, he was soon hounded by creditors. Desperate, Tom pleaded everywhere, "Please, can you lend me about $100,000? I'll pay you back as soon as I make it big." However, no one was willing to throw money into a sinking ship, especially one already drowning in 6 figures of debt. In the end, after frantically seeking help, he had no choice but to opt for bankruptcy. Of course, bankruptcy doesn't strip one of the right to be elected, but for a man who boasted, "I'm not the type to end my career as a city or county councilman. I'm ultimately going to be a congressman," and who looked down on others and acted arrogantly, there were no hands eagerly extended to help. Hindered by his pride, he couldn't even seek employment, and before anyone realized, he had vanished from his hometown. After a while, rumors circulated that Tom was seen in the skid row of a big city or lining up for a soup kitchen, but the truth of these stories was uncertain. Meanwhile, John, having graduated from a private medical school and completed 5 years of residency, had just landed a job at a general hospital. Despite this, he was known to say, "I'm not constrained by any family medical practice when it comes to marriage. I want to be with someone I'm truly attracted to." He whispered these words to anyone he could, seducing numerous women, and due to the recent events, it was revealed that he had been involved with over 5 women, some of whom were married. Most of these affairs were with hospital staff, leading to a chaotic breakdown of relationships and causing an uproar among the hospital's upper management. Naturally, he was fired, and his reputation as a womanizer and troublemaker spread among the local medical community, making re-employment difficult. Furthermore, the burden of repaying student loans and educational loans weighed heavily on him, and the husband of one of his married lovers demanded, "I will sue you for marriage fraud. If you don't comply, I'll take it to court," forcing John to accrue more debt to settle the payment. One of the women he was involved with had a relative in a dangerous profession who confronted him, saying, "How dare you toy with her? How will you settle this?" Night after night, they threatened him at his home, eventually coercing him into a job at a notorious hospital in a remote area as a way to pay off the alimony. John is being overworked at the hospital, almost to the limit of legal working hours, but most of his salary goes towards paying off debts and loans, leaving him with almost nothing. Once, he called my workplace, apologizing for his past actions and begging for help, but when I didn't respond, the call ended with his sobbing voice. As for Mary, after the incident, her fiancé Ken called off their engagement and demanded compensation. Later, when I spoke to Ken and his parents, Mary had apparently garnered their sympathy by sharing her lonely childhood, as her biological father had neglected her and her siblings, though they were financially secure thanks to her maternal grandparents' wealth. She also spread baseless rumors about me, claiming that, as the second wife of her biological father, I was overly protective of my half-brother from the same father and extremely opposed to her and her siblings interacting with him. She tearfully claimed I was spreading malicious rumors and treating her cruelly. At that time, I couldn't see through Mary's lies and suggested she change her job if she was suffering so much. But Mary continued to act bravely, saying, "No, it's okay. Julie isn't a monster. I'm sure one day she'll understand my feelings," deceiving not only Ken but also his parents. However, the incident exposed Mary's true nature and the real character of Anna, who had been vehemently portraying herself as a victim to Ken's family. If that incident hadn't happened, I would have married Mary and, at her behest, taken in her mother. I can't imagine what would have become of us then. After saying this, the entire family deeply apologized to me, not only for their past actions but also Ken's father sent an explanatory email to internal and external contacts about the recent incident, stating it was us, the parents and child, who brought personal matters into the workplace. We deeply apologize to Jolie and want to take responsibility. Consequently, the father stepped down as president and Ken was demoted from his position to a regular employee. As Ken's family's resolute self-criticism became known, criticism poured onto Mary, the main instigator. She had no choice but to leave her thorny workplace, burdened with the costs of the broken engagement, the engagement ceremony, wedding preparations, and the luxurious loans for bridal beauty treatments. Unable to rely on her brothers, Mary sought help from her mother, but Anna, who had lived her life exploiting others' kindness, had no intention of assisting her daughter. After liquidating the small remaining assets of her family home, Anna disappeared without telling anyone her destination. Knowing her penchant for living beyond her means and relying on others, it's likely only a matter of time before she ends up in the same dire straits as her children. Now, Mary, left on her own, is reportedly working tirelessly day and night to pay off her debts and make ends meet. On the other hand, I decided to sell the condo that had been one cause of the turmoil. We found a more affordable place near the high school Harry hopes to attend and decided to move there. I felt sorry for making Harry change schools in the middle of his education, but he said, "Some of my close friends are planning to go to the same high school, so it's fine." Sure, that condo had memories with Dad, but moving doesn't erase those memories. He's living cheerfully as if to say my worries were unnecessary. It seems he's likely to make friends at his new middle school, which is most important. Indeed, as Harry says, memories don't all vanish just because places change or time passes. What matters is that Harry and I live happily and brightly. And I believe it's important to show this to Sean, who is watching over us from above, and to keep striving forward with that thought in mind.